After receiving Einstein's refutation denying the existence of the life energy's radiation in the form of a short 1.5-page letter, exposed in the previous chapter, the contents of which holds an incoherent and disconnected essence that bears no relationship to the manner in which the replication of the experiment in question should have taken place, as indicated by Wilhelm Reich, the latter composed a 43-page document, whereas such refutation offered by Einstein based on an assistant's interpretation is scientifically proved to be wrong.
Dear Professor Einstein, I have taken a good deal of time to answer your letter. It was important to determine experimentally just what was the progress of the work brought about by your assistant's objection. As you will remember, our agreement was to investigate experimentally any objections that might come up. I did not come to you with a trifling matter, and not without due consideration. The experimental basis on which my work developed has safeguarded me against such accidents as the temperature difference at the tabletop as the explanation of the phenomenon. Of this you could not know, and thus had to take your assistant's objection seriously. Only I was quite disturbed because you seemed ready to give up so soon.
These words refer to the following part of Einstein's letter.
One of my assistants now drew my attention to the fact that in rooms, as they are at our disposal, the temperature on the floor is always lower than the one on the ceiling.
By claiming that the temperature increase registered by the thermometer placed on top of the Orgone accumulator was due to heat convection from the floor to the ceiling of the room where the experiment took place, Leopold Infeld discarded the existence of a power, the source of which could be concentrated within the Orgone accumulator, finding expression thermally as a result of the stoppage of kinetic energy induced by the metal enclosure. The details of this achievement are offered extensively in Wilhelm Reich's work, The Cancer Biopathy. At the objection raised by Leopold Infeld, an explanation should have been allowed to be offered, as agreed beforehand by Wilhelm Reich, in order to clarify the details that would have exposed this objection as an irrelevant fact, for the increase in temperature was achieved in addition to the heat already present as a result of convection. Needless to say, the objection would have been eliminated at once by conducting the experiment outdoors, where no heat convection from floor to ceiling was present.
A. The experimental demonstration of the temperature difference with elimination of the objection raised. The offered interpretation of the temperature difference, T0 minus T, is proven to be incorrect by the following experiment. Experiment number 1. In the room. CF diagram. If the Orgone box in its original arrangement and the control thermometer are placed above the tabletop, with the control thermometer about 3/4 of a meter from the box, the temperature difference between box thermometer and control thermometer nevertheless continues to exist. The only difference is that T0 minus T, due to the radiation of the tabletop, is somewhat less than when the control thermometer is suspended freely in the room. For months, I had had the control thermometer standing at a distance of about half a meter from the apparatus on the same table. After realizing the lessening effect of the radiation from the tabletop, I proceeded to suspend the control thermometer freely in the room. During all this time, there was an average temperature difference of about 0.6 degrees Celsius, maximum difference up to plus 1.5 degrees Celsius, and an apparatus of 1 cubic foot.
If one covers the field of experiment with a second wooden plate about 1 meter above the first, thus interrupting the hypothetical heat convection from the ceiling down to the tabletop,
The temperature difference, nevertheless, continues to exist. If, in addition, the lower wooden plate is replaced by a metal one, which equalizes the temperature difference above and below more quickly, plus and minus 0.1 degrees Celsius difference, the temperature difference between apparatus and air also continues to exist. The difference T minus T with the original arrangement of the box is present also if the box is suspended freely in the room without a tabletop below. It is also present if the box is surrounded with a covering which protects the box thermometer from all sides. A covering of the control thermometer with cotton, rubber, metal, or glass does not reduce the temperature difference or only within negligible limits. This presupposes that the temperatures are not taken at a time of a rapidly increasing outside temperature.
In other words, a constant increase in temperature was registered by the thermometer placed above the Orgone accumulator indoors from no known source under all scenarios where the heat convection from floor to ceiling was discarded to be a factor influencing the result. Wilhelm Reich continues with the details of the experiment results as conducted outdoors, where the results were even more dramatic.
Experiment number 2. Measurement of the temperature outdoors. For several months during 1940, I had kept a small Orgone box buried in the soil in my garden and observed a constant temperature difference. However, it was not until a few days ago that I discovered how much greater this temperature difference is than that observed in closed spaces. On February 15, 1941, a sunny day with a strong cold wind, I buried an apparatus 2/3 in the ground in such a manner that the box thermometer was still above the soil level. The box, together with the upper thermometer casing, was in a second box of cardboard. The spaces at the sides and above the box were filled with cotton and wood shavings, and the whole thing was covered with a cotton blanket. It goes without saying that in order to preserve the heat produced, the space in which the temperature is measured has to be well protected against the low outside temperature. A control thermometer was placed through a hole in a glass vessel, and this vessel was put down 4 inches in the soil in such a manner that the tip of the thermometer was below the soil level. A second control thermometer, the tip without any wrapping, was put down 1 inch into the soil. This second thermometer was also used to measure the temperature of the air at about the height of the box thermometer, with and without a wrapping which protected against the wind. The 3 thermometers were interchanged again and again. The appended diagrams of experiment number 2 illustrate the setup as well as the result. With this setup, TO minus T is found to be much greater than in the closed room, probably because here the diminishing effect of the secondary organotic radiation from walls, tabletops, etc. is eliminated. Here, TO minus T varies within the range of about +2 degrees C.
The chart reveals a constant increase in temperature registered by the thermometer placed above the Orgone accumulator, as compared to the 2 control thermometers placed outside the apparatus under different scenarios. This increase in temperature, registered against all odds, took place regardless of weather conditions, and in line with the temperature being registered outside the apparatus by the control thermometers, only with an added constant increase averaging +2 degrees centigrades from no known source.
In order to make doubly sure, I continued experiment number 2 overnight and on the following day from February 16th to 17th in the following manner. I left the apparatus in the open as it was, but took off the cotton blanket, i.e., I let the night frost cool it off completely. At 9:30 a.m. on February 17th, the air temperature was -1 degree Celsius,
the soil temperature 0 degrees Celsius. I put the cooled cotton blanket again over the apparatus and introduced the thermometer, which had just registered an air temperature of -1 degree Celsius, from above into the funnel of the box. The mercury began to rise, and after a while registered +2.3 degrees Celsius. At the same time, the air temperature was still -1 degree Celsius and the soil temperature 0 degrees Celsius. The air within the glass buried in the soil registered +0.9 degrees Celsius. I think these findings are unequivocal. A, the soil and the atmospheric air contain a kind of energy which, in my apparatus, can be measured as heat.
This statement invalidates Einstein's empty universe, attributing a living agency to an otherwise previously assumed to be void.
In high values, this constant source of energy and heat becomes manifest only if a certain arrangement of materials is used. This arrangement, organic material on the outside, metal on the inside, is essential for increasing T minus T.
The increase of the difference between TO, temperature orgone, and T, temperature, follows a law that contradicts an inert passive living process influenced by chaos, revealing a process imbued with purpose, guided in wisdom, evolving towards order. This new paradigm, not Albert Einstein, nor his assistant Leopold Infeld, could allow to take hold of the consciousness of an age obliterated into dependency and servitude to the overlords of an imposed system of belief based on physical, thus ephemeral laws.